Hey, so welcome to the Rum Revival. My name's Arminder, and look, we're at the end of the year here now, and it's one of my favorite times of the year because we get a lot of big annual limited rum releases that come out. So I figured for the rest of the month, what I'll do is highlight a number of these limited releases that I think are worth taking note of, worth talking about, and of course, worth drinking. Given all that, let's actually start with one that doesn't actually come out in December, but instead comes out every July 31st to be exact. So this is Black Tot Master Blenders Reserve 2023, and it might just be the most complex rum blend out there. We'll get into all that in a bit, but first, let's get into why this comes out specifically on July 31st. The day of the release and the name of the brand is a reference to Black Tot Day, which was on July 31st, 1970. And it was on that day that the British Royal Navy stopped serving daily rum rations to their sailors. And daily rum and other alcohol rations were a tradition in the British Navy that went back a couple of hundred years. Now, the rum that was served throughout this history was sourced from all over the place, but thanks to colonialism, they often came from places like Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana. Now, starting in the 1800s, these rums would make their way to Britain where they'd be blended together in these massive open-air vats. Now, usually these rums came in unaged or aged very little and maybe sat in those vats for up to 2 years before being diluted down to Navy strength, which was 54.5% ABV, and then loaded up in casks for serving as part of the daily rations. So the Black Tot brand is all about referencing and paying homage to this rum blending tradition. Now, the brand itself is a private label brand owned by Elixir Distillers in Scotland. Now, they have a number of different whiskey brands that they source and blend whiskeys for. Black Tot is their rum brand in their portfolio, and its standard year-round release is the Black Tot Finest Caribbean Rum. And this is a blend of rums from Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana, and it's a mix of rums that are unaged to age up to 5 years. Now, I've already done a video on this, you can check it out here, and I go into much more detail about Black Tot the day, Black Tot the brand, as well as the history of British Royal Navy rums. Now, their Master Blenders Reserve series is where they lean into the tradition of rum blending and kind of go crazy with it. The master blender in question is Oliver Chilton, and he blends for Elixir's whiskey brands, and once a year he puts together a new Black Tot Master Blenders Reserve release. And the series had actually kind of started off fairly straightforward, but each year the blend has gotten more and more complex. So let's actually get into this year's 2023 blend. So every Master Blenders Reserve release starts with the previous year's release as a base. In the case of the 2023, 19% of this blend is actually the 2022 release. But because every release contains a portion of the previous release, the 2022 component has some 2021 in it, and the 2021 has some 2020 in it. Black Tot calls this whole concept their perpetual blend. So every yearly release will have some continuity with every other release before it. So with that base in place, for each release, Oliver layers in a number of rums from each of the following countries: Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad. And for this release, Oliver has also included a rum from Grenada. So that's like the super high level breakdown, but let's get into a bit more detail by breaking down the rums from each country. Now here's the thing, I won't provide like a complete list of everything that makes up this blend, but instead I will include a link to Black Tot's website that includes all of the crazy detail, and there is a lot of it. So let's start off with Guyana, which makes up 31.5% of the total blend. Now there are a total of 6 rums in this Guyanese blend, and all of it is from Elixir Distillers Limited, the folks that make El Dorado. Now the majority of those rums are aged between 19 to 31 years, and the vast majority of that aging takes place in Europe. Now next up is a blend of rums from Trinidad, which make up 19% of the overall blend. Now the majority of the blend contains 14 to 16-year-old column distilled rums from Trinidad Distillers, the folks that make Angostura. There's also column still rums from 2 defunct distilleries, a 15-year-old rum from Ten Cane and a 24-year-old rum from Caroni. The next country in the blend is Barbados, which makes up 18.3% of the overall blend. Now, a part of this blend contains both an 8 and a 16-year-old Foursquare rum, that's both a pot and column still rum. There's a small amount of a 19-year-old Mount Gay pot and column still rum, and a 27-year-old pot and column still rum from West Indies Rum Distillery. The next country is Jamaica, which makes up a total of 9% of the blend, and includes a 6-year-old pot still rum from Worthy Park, and 6 rums aged between 22 to 27 years from New Yarmouth, Clarendon, and Long Pond distilleries. The rum from Grenada accounts for 2.7% of the blend, and is a 28-year-old calm still rum aged half of its life in Grenada and the other half in Europe. Now lastly, after all of those additions, this blend is topped off with a very small amount of actual authentic British Royal Navy rum that had been blended together prior to Black Tot Day. When Black Tot Day happened in 1970, the remaining stock in the vats were placed and sealed within these like stone flagons, and then the folks at Elixir got their hands on some of these flagons a couple of years back and released some of it commercially, but they also held some of it back to use as blending components in their releases. So there you go, that's what goes into this release of Master Blenders Reserve 2023. Now, if you remove the Perpetual Blend and the Navy rum from the equation, by my count, we're looking at something like 28 individual rums that make up this blend. Though it's probably more than that since some of those rums are actually pot and column still blends. Now, once you add in the Perpetual Blend and the Navy rum, I mean, at that point, it kind of exponentially gets out of control and it has to be like 100+ rums for sure. Now, Oliver did not have to go this hard, but he sure as hell did. So with all of those rums mashed together, is there any hope that this isn't one big chaotic mess? Well, let's find out. That is a very lovely nose. So the first thing that really kind of grabs my attention is like this note of cherry, like a rich cherry syrup. And that is kind of intermingled with notes of caramel and brown sugar. But I'm also getting some like desserts like creme brulee and also some flambéed fruit as well. Maybe like a hint of flambéed banana. Now there's also some spices here as well. Definitely some clove and some cinnamon. Now, once my nose has gotten used to all of those notes, now what I'm picking up is these subtle notes of citrus and black tea. Ooh. Oh yeah, that is powerful, complex. Now, it doesn't feel like there's a billion things going on. It's not like a chaotic mess at all. But there are some really interesting kind of progressions on the palate. Now, the first thing that really kind of captured my attention was this note of citrus kind of in the middle, like a dried citrus that's intermingled with a little bit of licorice. So like bright notes of citrus, kind of more darker notes of licorice, kind of in balance with one another, kind of in the middle of the palate. Now, prior to that citrus and licorice, up front is when I get this like real interesting spice note. It's like nutmeg and cinnamon, but it's not just your traditional nutmeg and cinnamon. It's real kind of earthy, sharp nutmeg and cinnamon. Towards the back, I'm getting like tar, like dirty tar. That kind of eventually leads into a little bit of dark chocolate. And I love that. I love that kind of earthiness up front, kind of a high bright note of citrus, and then you kind of come back down to the tar and the dark chocolate. That is quite the treat. Ultimately, I think this is an absolute masterful blend of like a bazillion rums. And it's kind of crazy how they all come together to not just make something that tastes coherent, but actually tastes delicious and has like a clear journey and progression on the palate. Now, if you were to remove one or two of the rums in the blend, would that be perceptible? Who knows? Maybe it's like a delicate ecosystem of rums, and if you were to remove one, maybe the whole thing kind of collapses and it tastes like a hot mess. I guess only Oliver would really know. To me, this is like great proof that blending is no joke and truly an art that can create some like real amazing layered experiences that you might not be able to get with just one rum or even a couple. Now, given the nature of the Perpetual Blend, one question to ask is, should you buy this if you already have the previous year's release? Well, obviously, money is always going to be a factor, but if you can take that out of the equation for a little bit, I think it's a fair question to ask, since remember, like 19% of this is actually just the 2022. And in many cases, Oliver included many of the same rums that he used to make the 2022 in the 2023 on top of the base of the 2022. If that makes sense. I think it does. So to answer the question of should I buy the 2023 if I already have the 2022, I think the only way to really kind of get to the heart of it is to, I don't know, maybe sample them side by side. Let's give the 2022 a quick smell. This one definitely kind of leans in the direction of tropical fruits like overripe banana and overripe pineapple. Yeah, this one has the notes of cherry syrup, some of that citrus. I'm getting coffee, which I really wasn't getting a whole lot of coffee here. Getting a lot of coffee here, but also chocolate. Not like just dark chocolate, but I'm getting more of a sweeter, more kind of fattier chocolate on the palate. Yeah, I would say this one, the 2022, almost tastes a little bit more desserty. This feels a little drier. Yeah, this has more kind of high and dry notes. This one has more low and richer notes. So these are priced around $200, which obviously is a lot of money, but you know, these are kind of once a year big releases. And for me, there's enough variation here in terms of flavor profile that so far, I think I will continue to buy each yearly release. But that's for me, because I really do love these kind of richer, big, bold rums. And I totally geek out and absolutely love just blends in general. I love to see things come together, random things come together to kind of create some really unique harmony. So there you go, that's my video on the Master Blenders Reserve release from Black Tot. Let me know in the comments below if you've actually tried this release. What do you think? How does it stand up against the 2022 if you've tried that or any of the other ones from the series? I'd love to know. Also, have you tried Black Tot's Last Consignment? That consists of solely actual authentic British Royal Navy rum. And it's kind of expensive too. I think it's like $1,000 per bottle. Let me know if you've tried that. I would love to know if it's worth that price tag. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Cheers.